that one of the significant points about the Vietnam War and drugs is that there were two fronts in that war. There was drug use on the home front, but there was a lot of drug use in Vietnam itself.
People say I'm the life.
You think that we were using drugs on the home front? What was going on in Vietnam was the U.S. military was using even harder drugs. They were shooting up heroin.
Deep inside I'm blue. So take a good look at my face. You'll see my smile looks sort of plain.
It's the only way you can feel good in Nam, you know?
How available is it? Nam? I used to buy after a kid who was 89 years old.
8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old.
I went to Vietnam in September of 1969, and during the time that I was there, I went through certain experiences that led me into using drugs. You know, one of the experiences that I recall was during a night ambush. I killed a 12-year-old kid, you know, which was something that I couldn't handle at that time. You know, seeing him dead, laying on the ground the next morning, it really stayed on my mind. So I started using drugs, and I kept that up until I came back to the States.
When I used to shoot dope, I didn't have fear. That was the whole thing about it. To keep myself going through the day in combat, I would get high. I would be under the influence of some type of drugs, and I wouldn't feel fear. But after coming down from the drugs, I would start feeling fear, and that's when I would go back to get high again.
In 1971, a congressional study said that drugs in South Vietnam were more plentiful than cigarettes and chewing gum. Another report estimated 30,000 American heroin addicts in the country. Narcotics were eroding discipline. Drug abuse, concluded an official survey, had become a military problem.
I heard about these veterans over there in Vietnam getting high all the time. What they were doing to get high, why they were getting it, and how cheap it was, and that kind of thing. And decided I'd try it out.
When he arrived, Frank saw poppy fields as far as the eye could see. He also saw dollar signs. To transport the dope, he came up with a truly morbid stroke of genius. He began shipping the drugs in the coffins of dead U.S. soldiers. This infamous cadaver connection would be a key facet of Frank's lucrative business.
At this time, 1 in 2 GIs use marijuana.
I make it down here maybe twice a day. Sometimes in the morning I'll come down here, sometimes in the afternoon. Then we really get it on in the evening.
As a medic, I had my unlimited supply of morphine. Morphine's a painkiller. I was in pain.
Purple haze, look! Hey, Chief, get a good whip. People can't picture me in Vietnam. Picture me at home having a beer watching TV.
Yeah, baby, come on. Just a little taste.
What are you doing, Jeff?
Fucking nothing, man. It's I'm eating jelly beans.
Oh, I love jelly beans. Can I please?
No, you can't have any fucking jelly beans.
Troop use of marijuana, opium, and heroin is epidemic. Chief U.S. Army Provost Marshal Major Thornton Ireland.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of all our military in Vietnam have either experimented with one of these 3 categories of drugs or are currently using these drugs now.
On the 24th of February 1991, coalition forces launched a massive ground assault against Iraqi army units occupying Kuwait. In less than 100 hours, a substantial portion of the fourth largest army in the world was destroyed, and Kuwait liberated.
I got my finger on the trigger, but I don't know who to trust. I look into your eyes, there's just devils and us. We're a long, long way from home, Bob. Home's a long, long way.
What up, homie? What's up, Jim? Good? What up? What's up, man? What's up? What's up? What's up? This week is about to be crazy. Bro, got some Molly coming? What's up?
Hey, right now, no lie, I can call up my homie with 2 Molly. $15. 15? 2 Mollies, $15.
So we can go and get like a bag, right?
Yeah. Hey, they're good too. I was running on them 2 days ago. I can get them right now. I'll call it right now. Okay. I got something so dank. It takes 2 Ziploc bags of Vaseline. Damn. Straight up.
Vaseline?
Vaseline to coat the outside so you can't smell it.
Yeah. Alright. Hey,
stuff made my eyes water.
Wait. Hey guys, what you doing?
Nah, man, just talking.
Nah, man, hey.
I'll holler at you, G. I'll holler at you.
Yeah, I'm about to Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all good.
March along, sing a song with the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along.
He's going up here to get a bundle of dope.
What's the drug of choice?
Crack and dope.
That's crack? How long will it last?
With us, like 10 minutes.
This is Emily and her husband, Mike. Both veterans of the Iraq War. They're currently homeless and struggling with re-entry into civilian life.
Everything that I was before, like a social, outgoing person, I wasn't that when I came home. There was something wrong with me. I should have never been put out just being that way, being mentally incompetent. I just didn't have any connection to people at the time when I got back from Iraq. I knew how to do my job, but that was it.
There's just so much emotional baggage and bullshit. You don't want to think about it, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to care about it, but it all comes back anyway.
In 2010, the Army shifted its program for treatment of soldiers from the Surgeon General's office to the Installation Management Command, the people who run garrisons. What followed after that was that they lost a lot of talented counselors and clinical directors, and the quality of care suffered. One result, Wanda Keir says, is that many of the soldiers who should get help were missed.
Last year, over 7,000 soldiers were screened and not enrolled. That is considerably larger than the number of soldiers in the brigade combat team. So it really is an issue of concern.
The consequences of leaving a soldier to languish in alcohol abuse or drug abuse can be tragic.
Some of the soldiers that were screened and not enrolled have gone on to commit acts of violence and sometimes have killed themselves after that as well. So while we can't say that we could have saved folks, we can say that we need to do a better job of treating them.
Keir explains that it's possible to fix this problem, but it takes a collaborative effort. It takes integrated services to help soldiers that can have a group of problems all happening at one time.
You
you have heard of the war on drugs, but a war on prescription medication. The level of overdoses from prescription medication now outnumbering those from illegal drugs.
Every year, 20,000 soldiers go to the Army substance abuse clinics. They go there either because they're sent by their commanders because they've had some kind of alcohol or drug-related problem, or they go there because they simply need help. After 14 years of war, American soldiers can be suffering from any number of issues. They can have post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, be having chronic pain with wounds or injuries, and they may even have thoughts of suicide. A nexus for these problems can be the abuse of alcohol or pain medication.
In terms of trends, we see particular drugs becoming popular in some locations, but the most abused drug is alcohol still, and it's been that way practically forever in the Army. A lot of collaboration is required in treating substance abuse because many times there are numerous health factors that have to be addressed, and the soldier has to be treated as a whole person and not just treating one part at one place and not even talking to other providers.
This week, he and the Center for Investigative Reporting won a prestigious Peabody Award for exposing how the Veterans Administration's become a drug dealer of choice for many veterans who are now addicted to prescription painkillers.
So the doc gave you prescription meds. Use them as directed and you're good to go. Misuse them and things can go south, fast. It's easier than you think to cross the line. Maybe you take a few extra pills, thinking you'll get your boots on the ground faster. Or mix meds with alcohol, or use a leftover prescription, or share meds with a buddy. And misuse can quickly turn into abuse when you take meds just to get high. Random drug tests don't lie. If you pop hot, you could be looking at a discharge, loss of benefits, and worse. There's a lot to lose when you misuse. So take your prescription drugs responsibly. It's a thin line between use, misuse, and abuse. Don't cross it. Learn more at armythinline.org.
Waggoner survived his deployment. He died back home, in this motel, just hours after being discharged from a Department of Veterans Affairs hospital in Oregon. While recovering from his wounds, Waggoner's mental state deteriorated. He became addicted to painkillers, and the Army sent him to the detox center at this VA hospital in Roseburg to get clean. But the hospital continued to give him narcotics, and after 2 months, they released him with a massive cocktail of drugs, including 12 tablets of the painkiller oxycodone.
One of my good friends died in a tank mine explosion. The whole incident just had me have nightmares and shit. I mean, I've tried every fucking antidepressant known to fucking man. 7 different psych meds, just doesn't seem to help. The thing that I found relief in is dope. I swear they teach the doctors not to diagnose people with PTSD, because I wasn't diagnosed with PTSD till after I overdosed.
I noticed that he was always clinging to his backpack. And I asked him one day, I said, I want you to show me what's in your backpack. Show me the contents of that backpack. And he did. He took it off and he spilled everything out on the bed. It was full of about 20 different bottles of prescribed pills. And it was at that point when he told me, he said, I've been put on antidepressants, I'm taking tranquilizers, they've given me 3 different sleeping pills. He was taking antidepressants, and I never saw him happy. I still saw him depressed. I never saw him smile again. I never saw that same outgoing person that Tony used to be. He was taking tranquilizers. He was still nervous. He was still anxious and agitated. He was taking sleeping pills. He couldn't sleep. I trusted every single one of Tony's doctors, and I didn't speak up. And because of that, My husband and I lost our precious son through over-medication.